This is Mary Jane's Last Dance by Tom Petty. The tuning on this one is just slightly higher than standard tuning. So before we start, we're going to tune up. Here's my low E string. A. D. G. B, and high E. Okay, now that we're in tune, let's start. Okay, before we get started on the song, I'm going to show you some of the techniques and chords you're going to need to play it. If you're already familiar with hammer-ons and pull-offs and some basic chords down in the open position, you can skip this part and go right to the verse. Otherwise, here we go. Okay, the first technique we're going to look at is the hammer-on. And the way you create a hammered note is by plucking the note before it once, and then using the momentum from your other finger to fret the next note in the sequence without picking the string. So what I'm doing here is we're up on the 8th and 10th fret. I've chosen these two frets because they're part of the solo, and you're going to have to hammer on and pull off there, so we might as well use our example as part of the song. So here I go. I'm going to pluck the 8th fret on the 2nd string and then hammer to the 10th fret on the 2nd string. So there's our hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now during this song you're actually going to have to hammer or pull two notes at a time usually. In this case, the 3rd string and 4th string, you're going to hammer the 4th string with your 2nd finger and the 3rd string with your 3rd finger after plucking both strings open. Like so. And that's part of the song in the very beginning. I'm sure that sounds familiar. The other hammer you're going to need to do is when we hammer to a D chord, which I'll show you all these chords in a minute. And what we're going to do here is hammer from the open 2nd string and 3rd string to 2nd fret on 3rd string with your 1st finger and 3rd fret on 2nd string with your 3rd finger. And that's the part of the song after the G chord. And the last hammer-on you're going to need to do is with your 2nd finger, moving from the open 1st string while maintaining this chord position to the 2nd fret on the 1st string, like so. So when we put all of our hammer-ons and pull-offs together, it's all going to look something like this. Okay, now let's go over the chords you're going to need to know. The chord you're going to need to know first is the A minor chord, and that's going to look like this. We're going to use our 1st finger on the 1st fret on the 2nd string, and then we're going to use our 2nd and 3rd fingers as if they were one unit, and bring them to the 4th string and 3rd strings, 2nd finger being on 4th string, 3rd finger being on 3rd string, both on the 2nd fret. Should sound like this. The other chord we're going to need to know is the G. And the way we're going to do that is use our 3rd and pinky together on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, and 1st string, 3rd fret. Bring our 1st finger around to the 2nd fret, 5th string, and then our 2nd finger to the 3rd fret on the 6th string. should sound like this. Next, we're going to have the D chord. D is formed by using our second finger on the second fret of the first string, first finger on second fret of the third string, and third finger on third fret of the second string. And we're also going to pluck the open fourth string. Just like that. And lastly, the E minor. We're going to use our first and second fingers on the fifth string and fourth string, both on the second fret, and strum all of the strings. Should sound like that. One more, the A. In this case, it's best to use the first finger across all the strings, the fourth string, the third string, and the second string on the second fret, rather than use some of these voicings. I know it's the same notes, but when you get into the chord sequence of the song, you're going to find first finger is the best for A, for this song. And that's all we need to know. There's the tools we need to put together to play the whole song. So let's get started. This is the right hand picking to the verse. You want to keep an eye on my right hand here. I've got my left hand in the picture too, so you can see that a little bit and see how the chords move together. But for all practical purposes, we're going to go ahead and focus on the right hand. Okay, so here we go. The first couple notes are going to be on the fourth string and third string, and then we're going to do our hammer. Then we're going to pick just third and second string. So we have this. And notice how I kind of anchor my hand here and use very small picking motion just to not, get all sorts of extra strings. So again, couple mutes, and the way we achieve that is by resting the heel of our hand here on the strings so they can't ring, and then we have sixth string followed by fourth, third, and second strings. So we have this. Next we're going to go to that D chord where we hammer on the third and second string, so we're going to pluck just those two strings, then just the first and second. See how that looks? And then we're back to our A minor chord, and the picking sequence is the same for the other part that goes. So now let's get the left hand in here so you can see the coordination of the two. Okay, now I've got my left hand in here so you can see the combination of how the two work together. Here we go. So there we have it, the verse picking to Mary Jane's Last Dance. Okay, here's the chorus to the song. It's just chords. We're going to not do the fills. We're going to hit that in a different part of the lesson. So right now we're just focusing on left-hand chords. The chord sequence, in case you didn't pick it up while I was playing along with the music, we're going to go E minor to A, then E minor to A to G. One more time if you want to write it down. We have E minor to A, then E minor to A to G. And that's about it for the chorus. Let's move along to the first solo. Okay, here's the lead guitar part that kind of recurs throughout the song. It starts at the beginning of the solo, and at the end of the song also it repeats over and over and over as the other guitar solo happens. Here we go. So slowly, what this thing looks like is we're going to use our third and pinky together on the 7th fret and bend both of those strings together, that being the 2nd string and 3rd string. Just like that. And then we're going to bring it back down, pick it again. Bring first finger to 5th fret, 2nd and 3rd strings. So what we have so far is this. Then we're going to bring 3rd and pinky over to 4th string and 3rd string. On the 4th string and 3rd strings. So we have this. Back to 1st finger, 2nd and 3rd strings. And back to our original note. Bent kind of slowly. So the whole thing looks like this. Second time through, it's exactly the same, except we're going to land on these two notes here. So the second time through looks like this. Put the whole thing together. Just like that, and then the solo begins. This is a solo to Mary Jane's Last Dance. I'll play it through for you a couple. Okay, the whole thing starts on the 5th fret, and what we're doing here is fingering the 2nd and 1st strings with our 1st finger, picking only those strings in this rhythm. Then we're going to pick the 5th fret 2nd string note once, and slide our 1st finger up to the 8th fret. So we have this. And the rhythm here is going to go. Now next we're going to use our 1st finger to slide from the 8th fret to the 10th fret, while simultaneously picking the 1st string. Just like that. And you do that twice. So the whole thing so far. Next 3 notes are 10 with your 1st finger. Once again, picking the 1st string along with it. 3rd finger comes over to 12th fret, 2nd string, and then back to 10th fret, 2nd string. So what that looks like coming out of this part is this. So far we have this. Next we're going to pick the 8th fret 2nd string and then 10th fret 2nd string with our 3rd finger. Now we have the hammer-on that we saw earlier in the lesson in the first part, while simultaneously hitting the 1st string. And then we have this little number here, which is picking the 2nd and 1st strings simultaneously very quickly. So So when we put that together with our hammer on, it looks like this. And we're going to do that twice. And then after that, we're going to pull from the 10th to the 8th. Second finger comes over to 9th fret, 3rd string. And then first finger is still on the 2nd string, 8th fret. So that whole sequence. Again. One more time for you. Then we're going to slide from the 8th fret down to the 3rd, and we're going to do our hammer from the 3rd to the 5th while simultaneously picking the 1st string. And then we're going to go to the 1st fret here. Do the same idea. 1, 3, 1. And then 2nd finger on 2nd fret, 3rd string. Open 3rd string. And then 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 3rd string. So there's all the notes to the solo. Let's zoom out for a minute and look at the picking. Okay, you're going to want to keep an eye on my right hand here. Now our first couple notes on the 5th fret are going to be a down, 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 up, down, up. Down, 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 up. Down, 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 up. When we slide up, it's a down pick. And when we arrive, it's similar to our last strum. We're going to go down, 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 up. Down, 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 up. So we have this. Down, 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 up. Slide down, 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 up. Now for this part here, where we slide between 8th and 10th, it's just a downstroke on each one. Down, slide down, down, slide down. And when we go from 8th to 12th, we're going to go down, up, down. Then we move down here to the 8th fret, 2nd string, and that 8 to 10 is going to be down, up. And after that, it's going to be a down, up strum. Very quickly on the 1st and 2nd strings. So we have something like this when we put it all together. Hammer, quick strum, hammer, quick strum. After that, we're going to do our pull from the 10th to the 8th. Downstroke, 2nd finger to 9th fret, 3rd string, downstroke, back to 1st finger, downstroke. So what the whole thing looks like is this: hammer down, up, down, pull, down, down. Then we're going to slide down here to our 3rd fret note and do our hammer. This is going to be a downstroke. Then the 1st fret, once again a downstroke, and downstroke here, pull, down. So that's the picking pattern for the song. Hopefully that'll help you guys who don't know which strings to pick when I demonstrate it with the left hand. And then you just put it all together, practice it hard, and you will succeed. Let's move on to the next part. This is the outro solo to the song. Okay, so there we have it, the outro solo. Now this isn't that hard at all. It's basically a repeated kind of bend lick. And what we're going to do is use the first finger on the 5th fret and our 3rd finger on the 8th fret. Now the 8th fret bend is only a half bend. It's real small. About that far. So as opposed to what you would usually do, to do a full bend, we're just tiny little half bends. And we're going to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then land on the 8th fret with your 3rd finger, 2nd string. So it's going to look like this. Over and over. It's better to listen to the recording and kind of try to play along with it. He actually speeds it up as he goes along to give it a little more of a effect to it. So, you know, you really got to listen to the music to stay with this one. Okay, then he does one final bend of those. Use your 3rd finger to slide up to 10th fret, and then pick it twice. And then 1st finger to 8th fret, 1st string, and then back to 10th. So our last bend looks like this. Here that is again. And then the last lick is going to look like this, which is basically right down a scale, pentatonic scale in A minor. And that starts on the 5th fret with your 1st finger, then 3rd finger to 8th fret. This is on the 2nd string. Then we're going to go back to 5th fret, do the same thing again. So we have this. Then 3rd finger 7th fret, 1st finger 5th fret, this is on the 3rd string, and then 7th fret 4th string plucked twice. So the whole thing looks like this. So there's all the parts for the left hand. Let's quick take a look at the right hand. Okay, now we've got my right hand over here where you can see it. Like I said earlier, these are all downstrokes. And then still downstrokes. Still downstrokes. Here we're going to have down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Again, that's down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So the whole thing here. One more time for you so you can see my right hand again. Alright, so there we have it, the outro solo to Mary Jane's Last Dance. Let's move along. So we have that sequence. It's just kind of repeated over and over until we get to the chorus. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with our A minor shape, except we're going to only put our 1st finger in its position on the 1st fret on the 2nd string. We're going to pluck only the 4th and 3rd strings, and then hammer to the rest of the chord. Next we're going to pluck just the just the second and third strings. So what we have so far is this. And I'll get a closer shot of the picking for you in a minute. Right now we're going to focus on the left hand. So we have kind of a mute and open G string in there. And then second finger forming our G5 chord. We're not going to play the whole thing, but it's always good to have these couple notes fretted in case you miss a string or something. So we're going to play this note alone, which is the 3rd fret on the 6th string with the second finger. Then the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings open. So what we have so far is this. Next we're going to get our D chord shape ready and pluck just the open 3rd and 2nd strings and then hammer to the D chord shape, which is going to be a hammer to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string and the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. And after that, we're going to hit our open E string, which is the 1st string, and then hammer with our 2nd finger to its position of the D chord. And that whole thing looks like this. So far we have this. And then we're back to A minor. So we have the second time through, we're going to add our pinky up here on the 3rd fret on the 1st string, do the same move we did before, except now we're going to pluck the pinky note with some other strings up on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. So we're actually plucking through the 1st string this time. And then from there it's all the same. Again, that's. When we put it all together, we have this. So there's the left hand as far as the verse goes. Let's move along to the right hand. Okay, here's the first fill to we have it. Let's look at it note for note now. Basically what this is an A major arpeggio in 3 different positions. And what we're going to do is start on the 5th fret in that position using our 1st finger across the 2nd string and the 1st string, and our 2nd finger on the 6th fret on the 3rd string. It's going to make a little chord like this. And we're going to slide into that chord from the 4th fret on the 3rd string with our 2nd finger. So we're going to go. So we have a slide and 3 of these. Next we're going to bump it up to the 9th fret in kind of a D chord shape. 1st finger on 9th fret, 3rd string, 2nd finger on 9th fret, 1st string, and 3rd finger on 10th fret, 2nd string. With 1 pick here with a slide, and then 3 picks on the 1st and 2nd strings. And lastly, we're going to slide our 3rd finger from the 10th fret up to the 14th fret, and then have our first finger on the 12th fret first string and pick those two notes 3 times. So the whole thing looks like this: slide, 3 picks. So when we put the whole thing together, it's going to look like this. And then they go through the chorus again. The second ending looks like this. Again. And what we're doing here is starting with our second finger on the 3rd string, 7th fret, and 3rd finger on the 1st string, 7th fret. We're going to pick just the 3rd string note, slide up to 9th, and pick the 9th fret note 3 times on the 1st string. And you want to let this one ring. And then we're going to slide it down and pick the 7th fret on the 1st string. And meanwhile, this string is sustaining the whole time. So it's going to look like this. And that's the whole first fill to the song. Let's move along. Okay, here's the second fill to the song. You'll notice it's exactly the same as the first fill, with the exception of one part. When we slide up to the top here, the 14th fret and 12th fret, we're actually going to strum that one 5 times, as opposed to twice, which we did during the first part. Now the end of the fill is going to be a little bit different than we saw before. Last time we saw this. This time we're going to see this. Here that is again. And what I'm doing here is using my first finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string, skipping the 2nd string, using 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, 4th fret rather, I take that back. It's going to be 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. And then we're going to slide it up to the 5th fret, play 1st string 3 times, just like we did before, and then slide it down. And then we're going to play this little chord here, which is 1st finger barring 3rd fret, 2nd and 1st strings, and the 2nd finger is going to stay on the 3rd string, and it's going to be slid down from the 6th fret to the 4th fret, so it looks like that. So the whole thing. One more time. So that's basically the gist of those 2 fills. Okay, now that we've went over that fill note for note, we'll take it one more time with the music so that you can have a little more of a clear indication of how it looks as it's played along with the music. This will maybe make it a little more clear as to how it fits in. And like I said before, the only difference is when we go up here, we're going to strum it 5 times. And when we get down here, as opposed to this, we're going to go like this. Okay, here's the right hand picking for the fills. So keep your eye on this hand. And basically what's going to happen here is when we slide into it, it's going to be a down pick. And then here, down, up, down, up. So whenever we have the single notes, it's going to be a down pick. Whenever we have the chords, alternate picks. Same idea when we slide it up to here. and also when we slide it up to here. So again, that's going to be down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. And when we do this one, you can actually use all down picks for it if you want, or what I prefer is to go down, slide up, and then up here. And the picking is all the same for the second fill too, with the exception of our change down here. Since we play this note 3 times, we're going to do a down, up, down, and then here a downstroke. So that should help you out with the picking for the fills. And that's about it. It's pretty simple picking. Let's move along.